we've been in conversations with Governor Romney. He has very graciously reached out to our campaign. And I've talked with him on the phone. We've been trading emails with him. And I'm grateful for the support we're receiving from leaders all across the country. But what I'm really grateful for is the incredible passion and energy that we are seeing from the grassroots. That's really the basis of our support. It is why we are surging nationwide. It is why we are winning primary after primary after primary, because the conservative grassroots are coming together and unifying.
But why not you? Donald Trump was here yesterday, and he said Ted Cruz likes to wave his Bible high and then lie to you. Do you think he's gone too far by imputing your religion here?
Oh, listen, Donald says a different entertaining thing every day. And you can usually tell how dismayed he is by his volume, by the level of insults. And typically when he goes down to attacking people's faith, it's a sign that Donald is really, really worried. I understand the last election day, Super Saturday, was a very bad day for Donald. He came in proudly expecting to sweep all 4 contests. Instead, he got clobbered. He got clobbered on election day. In Kansas, he and I campaigned side by side. We were at the same caucus site in Kansas. We spoke back to back. Kansas, he was anticipated to win. The polling said he was going to win. Not only did we win Kansas, we won Kansas overwhelmingly with nearly 50% of the vote. We had roughly double the vote of Donald Trump in the state of Kansas. And then in Maine likewise, Donald was convinced he was going to win in Maine. The one thing he didn't count on was the actual voters. And we won a decisive victory in Maine, again on Super Saturday. And by the way, Donald and others had been pitching that a conservative couldn't win in New England. Well, Maine proved them wrong. And then Louisiana, Donald had a decisive lead, was convinced he was unbeatable. We ended up effectively tying him. We split the delegates evenly in Louisiana. And in fact, on voting day, we beat Donald Trump. The only reason he came out slightly ahead in the total vote was because he had a higher total in the early vote before his numbers started dropping and our numbers started surging. And even Kentucky, where he had maintained a large lead for a long time, he barely edged us out. We ended up taking considerably more delegates on Super Saturday than he did. So, of course, Donald is upset, and I will predict he will engage in more attacks. They will be more personal. They will be more nasty. And we're going to continue not to respond in kind, but instead to focus on issues and substance and policy, because that's what the voters expect and demand.
Senator, Donald Trump wanted to name a foreign policy advisor, and he couldn't. We also know that some foreign diplomats are starting to raise alarm bells about Donald Trump as a potential nominee or president. Could you respond to those foreign diplomats and say who would be your top foreign policy advisor since he couldn't name any?
Well, listen, on the question of foreign policy, I think we have seen throughout the course of this campaign a demonstration of the relative level of experience of each of the candidates. And one of the reasons why we're seeing so much support coalescing behind our campaign is because people are looking for a commander-in-chief who understands our enemies, understands the nature of our enemies, understands our friends. You know, Donald Trump's foreign policy in experience is demonstrated by his statement 2 debates ago that he intends to be neutral between Israel and the Palestinians. Nobody who understands foreign affairs would say that, unless perhaps you were a liberal Democrat. And the reason is Israel and the Palestinians are not standing on equal footing. Israel is a long-standing ally. Israel is our strongest ally in the Middle East. Israel shares our values. It is a liberal democracy. Israel is a tremendous military ally. Israel's intelligence and military benefits the United States enormously in the Middle East. On the other hand, the Palestinians, the PA has formed a unity government with Hamas, a terrorist organization that celebrates the murder of women and children, that celebrates terrorist acts. And so for anyone to say, as Donald Trump did, that he would be neutral between terrorists and our strongest military ally in the Middle East demonstrates that he does not understand foreign policy or national security. That likewise was evident at a previous debate when he was asked about the nuclear triad. Which leg of the nuclear triad was most in need of rebuilding? As anyone familiar with military affairs or foreign policy is aware, the nuclear triad is how we defend ourselves. It's our nuclear deterrence system. It consists of 3 legs. the submarines, the long-range bombers, and the missiles. Now, all three of them need rebuilding. By the way, the right answer to that question should have been the submarines, because of all of them, it's the hardest leg to take out. It's the most important for deterrence. But Donald, it became evident when Hugh Hewitt asked him that question, had no idea what the nuclear triad was. And so when Donald pressed him, when Hugh pressed him, okay, well, which of the three legs? Donald's response was, well, the nuclear part. Now, that does not suggest an individual with the experience, with the knowledge, to be commander-in-chief. And I would note, finally, when it comes to foreign policy, you need look no further than the Iranian nuclear deal. Donald has said if he was president, he would maintain the Iranian nuclear deal in place. And then he would go and try to renegotiate it with the Ayatollah. Well, anyone who thinks that he can go over and just renegotiate the deal with the Ayatollah doesn't understand the nature of his adversary. The Ayatollah Khamenei chants death to America. If I'm elected president on the first day in office, I will rip to shreds this Iranian nuclear deal, because you cannot negotiate with someone whose object is to murder you. There is not a middle ground. And so part of the reason why we are seeing so many Republicans unified behind our campaign is precisely because I'm the one candidate in this race that has demonstrated the experience, the judgment, the clarity of vision, and the strength of resolve, both to stand by our allies and to defeat our enemies.
Senator, would you ever ask your supporters to raise their hands and pledge their support to you, or would you be concerned about the optics of that?
I am asking for the support of the grassroots each and every day, but it's not about pledging support to one person. Anyone who thinks that you're making a loyalty oath to some candidate fundamentally misunderstands this process. Listen, no political candidate is going to make America great again. It's not going to be Donald Trump. It's not going to be me. It's not going to be any candidate. The only power strong enough to restore this nation is we the people. It is not about us. It is about the people. And so the idea that you would take this loyalty oath, you know what? I raise my hand and I take an oath to you, to the people. That's who's working for whom. And the idea that a candidate running for office wants the people to pledge loyalty to him like subjects to a king. Well, we've had 7 years of a president who thinks he's an emperor. And I've got to say, the only hand-raising I'm interested in is on January 20th, 2017, when I hope to raise my right hand and have my left hand sitting on the Bible, when I make a promise, a pledge to every American to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Last question. North Carolina today. How important is North Carolina? 1 or 2 stops here.
North Carolina is tremendously important. North Carolina is a bellwether state. We have an incredible team here in North Carolina, and I'll tell you, it's neck and neck. North Carolina is going to have a decisive impact on this primary. We are campaigning hard in North Carolina, and our team on the ground, what we have really seen is we have seen conservatives unite. We have seen evangelicals. We've seen libertarians. We've seen young people. And, let me take a minute to speak to the 65 to 70% of Republican primary voters who recognize that Donald Trump is not the best candidate to go head-to-head with Hillary Clinton. That if Donald Trump is our nominee, we lose. Hillary becomes president. That means if Donald Trump is our nominee, we lose the Supreme Court for a generation. We lose the Bill of Rights for a generation. What we are seeing more and more is those 65 to 70% of Republicans are unifying behind our campaign, because our campaign, it has now been demonstrated, is the only campaign that has over and over again beaten Donald Trump, and that can and will beat Donald Trump. We have beaten him now not once, not twice, but 7 different times. And so I want to speak for a minute to all of the supporters who may have been supporting someone else. Look, we started out with 17 candidates, a tremendously diverse field, a talented field, a dynamic field. But the process of the primary has narrowed it. It's winnowed it down. And so I want to speak to people who maybe you started out supporting Jeb Bush, or Chris Christie, or Carly Fiorina, or Dr. Ben Carson, or Rand Paul. Or maybe you were supporting Mike Huckabee, or Rick Santorum. Or maybe now you're supporting Marco Rubio or John Kasich. All of them are good, honorable, decent people. All of them are people I respect. But none of them have a path to beating Donald Trump. None of them have any viable path to getting to the 1,237 delegates that it takes to be the Republican nominee. The only campaign that does is our campaign. And so, to all of the supporters of those other candidates who have already come over and joined us and have given us decisive wins in states like Kansas and Maine and Oklahoma and Alaska, I say thank you. Thank you for coming and joining us. And to all of you who are voting today in states across the country who will be voting in a week, to all of the men and women here in North Carolina who may be thinking of supporting other candidates, I ask you, come join us. We welcome you with open arms. If you don't want to see Donald Trump as the nominee, and if you don't want to see Hillary Clinton as the president, which is the inevitable result of Donald Trump being the nominee, come join us. Let us stand together. And if I'm elected president, we will repeal every word of Obamacare. We'll pass a simple flat tax. We'll abolish the IRS. We'll pull back the federal regulators. We'll stop amnesty. We'll secure the borders. And the result of all of that will be incredible economic growth, millions of high-paying jobs, wages going up for everyone. And young people will be coming out of school with 2, 3, 4, 5 job opportunities. We can do it if we simply get back to the principles that built America and made this country great in the first place.
So our